Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the NGA podcast, where we dive into all things gymnastics. Whether you are coaching, cheering from the sidelines, or a gymnast trying to reach that peak performance, this podcast is your go-to source for expert tips and inspiring stories to empower you to excel. I'm your host, Rebecca Grady, and I'm here with my incredible co-hosts,
Dr. Ian Kreider,
Mike Nudor,
Rob Axelrod.
All right, so today we're revisiting a topic we've touched on in previous episodes, and that's conflict and drama that can arise between coaches and staff. We wanted to come back to this topic because it's something that affects a lot of gyms, and it's something I really think is an ongoing challenge for many programs. Hopefully, if we talk about it more openly as a whole, we can start addressing it more directly. So we all know that when tension is high between coaches, it just doesn't affect the adults involved. It impacts the entire gym culture, the staff's ability to collaborate with one another. And most importantly, it really affects our gymnasts. They see everything. So these kind of issues don't always start with a major blow up. They can, but they often begin with small, everyday interactions that chip away at trust and teamwork over time. Conflict between coaches and staff usually shows up in subtle ways. So that could be miscommunication, constant disagreements with training strategies, but there can be more overt things like staff arguments, undermining each other in front of your gymnast. So when this all happens, it sends a clear message, not just to the staff, but to the athletes. They pick up on tension, they sense when their coaches aren't on the same page, and that uncertainty can lead to anxiety, a lack of trust, and even a decline in their performance. So let's just start off kind of basic. What are some of the things that you guys have seen or experienced in your own gyms that you feel like you wish could have been addressed earlier, but maybe it did impact the culture, the gym, your gymnasts?
you want me to start off?
Sure.
I probably have about 20 of them, but I'll start with one. Probably the biggest one is you have either your director or your head coach of the program, and they put out a plan of what is supposed to be done. And then each individual coach looks at the plan and tries to follow that plan. And so it's very easy for individual coach to get to an event, and the plan that has been laid out by the director or the head coach isn't going to work that day. So they have to change it. It could be the attitude of the athletes. It could be just what's going on that day, and the plan isn't working, so they have to change it. So they make that change, which is the best thing to do for the athlete. But the director or head coach will look over and get mad because they're not following the plan. They're supposed to be on basics and strength right now, and they're throwing skills, in the pit. Like, what's going on here today? So that disconnect or lack of communication between those two coaches will obviously, the director, head coach is going to be very upset with the other coach that isn't following the plan like they're supposed to be following, when in fact the coach that's supposed to be following the plan is in a situation where they need to do something to have some kind of good workout. So they've got to change the plan. And so those little things that happen in the gym on a daily basis can, as you said, they can blow up over time, or they can just create feelings like, well, that coach isn't listening to me. So those things I see occurring, quite often. And it all comes down to communication. So the fix obviously is before you change the plan or get off course of what is supposed to be done that day, that you communicate that with the other coaches in the gym and just said, hey, my group is really struggling today. We're just going to have some fun. We're going to throw some skills in the pit. We're going to, pull off strength and conditioning for today, and then we'll jump back on it, tomorrow. So that's one thing that I see happening in the gym fairly often, actually.
For sure. Then you'll see stuff where the director puts a lot of effort and work into the plan, and then it just never gets followed at all. So it's not even, we had to change it for today. It's, you had a plan. I forgot about that. How convenient. It's been a month now, and I didn't realize you gave that to me, right? So I've seen that a lot too, because I talk to coaches all over about your strength and conditioning programming and that sort of thing. And I talk to head coaches and directors and owners, and they go, well, I'd really like to implement this, but I don't know if my coaches will actually listen. I'm like, well, I think that seems like a communication issue then, right? I think that's an issue of, if you say that it needs to be done and it is the right thing to do, and, really if it's the director or owner, whether it's the right thing to do or not, if you say it needs to be done, then it should be done, right? But hopefully you're doing the right things. And so your staff needs to respect that and to figure it out. And we actually just had a staff meeting here at this gym, and last night. And one of the things was, because a lot of the younger staff that we have, a lot of the junior staff work in rec and stuff, they'll sit there and complain to each other about things that are going on. but they never talk to the person who can actually change it. And so communicating to the person that can actually make a difference for the problem at hand is key to getting these things corrected. So yes, it's communication, but communicate with the right people, not just, Susie who works rec with you, or your other team coach that can't do anything about the problem. If you just sit there and complain to each other, well, then it just starts building and building and building. And now all of a sudden, this little problem that could have been fixed in 24 hours is now become this, I hate my job and I hate working here, and let's both leave and let's go to this gym and take all the kids with us and blah, 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 blah. And little things become really big things.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to plug a book on this. There's a book called Difficult Conversations. And Rebecca, I'm sure you know about the book. It's a really good book and talks just about kind of what Ian was talking about, making sure you're communicating to the right person. It doesn't help to go and, basically complain to everyone else, but not actually go to the person that you have the issue with and talk to them directly. Anyway, it's a great book if you have time to pick it up and read it. It's called Difficult Conversations.
And why do you guys think that people do that? I have my theories behind it, but why do you think that we avoid going to the right person to have these conversations to actually get things fixed right away instead of creating all this drama and everything going on in the gym?
I think it's to avoid conflict. Most people don't like to have conflict with people. And if you go right to the person you're having the issue with, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be some issues. And I think that's why people steer away from it.
Yeah, I think people are just really non-confrontational. And so they'll talk to the person that there will be zero conflict with, but also zero resolution with, instead of the person that, all right, there might be a little bit of drama associated with this. We might have to argue or at least reason out what our different viewpoints are. And in the end, it'll probably be better, right? But people just are too nervous to talk to people.
Yeah, so taking the less anxious route is really what we're doing. Complaining to someone gives us this feeling of validation in a sense, like that's what we're looking for versus the anxiety that comes with the confrontation because it makes you so uncomfortable, and we're so uncomfortable being uncomfortable that we avoid it.
Yeah, I think we here at our gym, we used to see some of those things get in the way, especially with the planning. I think that's a very common one. But I think, and I kind of pride myself on it, the last 7 years, we've talked about our plan and what the plan is and how it's not set in stone. So they have some leeway with the plan. And on a day that it's just not working, instead of me being the director reacting to the plan not happening is, well, obviously something went wrong and they decided to deviate from the plan. And normally now the communication is so good that that teacher or that instructor will come to me and say, hey, I didn't get to do this today. We had this. And then I don't have to go over and say, hey, what happened at the end? If you have an issue, we wait to talk about it. And then going back to the staff, yes, the staff will complain to the staff. There's a movie out there called Saving Private Ryan with Tom Hanks. And if you ever watch the whole movie, the men that work under him always want to know how he handles it. So he never complains about anything and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, because I complain up. And so for me, there is an owner that's here, but he's not present. But sometimes I just need to blow off some steam of like what's going on or who's not doing what or employees aren't getting this done or how many times you have to ask to get the toilet paper changed or, the paper towels are empty. So sometimes I'll have a little venting session and he'll take it as like, I'm not happy or this or that. I'm like, listen, I'm just complaining up. Just needed somebody to talk to about it. So yes, we do need that validation. And then I think what helps too with the staff is, especially the younger staff, we've had conversations with them that, when you're trying to pick a shirt, like, does this shirt look good on me? I think this shirt looks so great. You'll ask 10 people. And if the first 9 people didn't agree with you, but the last one did, you'll keep asking until you get the answer you want to hear. I don't know why we do that, but kids will do that with their decision making. Should I ask him to the prom with me or should I wait for him to ask him? And then you keep asking until you get the answer you want. Go, see, that's what I said. And so I think that having those conversations with the younger staff about always getting someone to agree with what you originally wanted may be a learning step for them to understand that, hey, maybe my idea wasn't good and I should be listening to somebody else's idea and let me try their idea first. Kind of taking like a coaching approach to the coach-athlete approach to the coach-to-coach approach kind of helps a little bit.
Yeah, because just like we're preparing athletes for the real world, sometimes as directors or head coaches or owners, right, we're preparing younger staff for the real world as well, where it's like, all right, all of us are pretty committed to gymnastics here, and we're probably going to be in it for the rest of our lives in some way or another. Whereas the random high school kid that comes in here for a job to work parties or to work summer camp or whatever it is, they might not love gymnastics. They might just need a job, but to
Yeah.
prepare them to actually be a responsible employee is something that we can do as just part of our training as people in these roles.
Yeah, we like to tell them this is going to be the last first job you ever have because we want them to get prepared for how to be on time, how to task manage, how to time manage, how to work with others, how to get along with others, how to take direction, how to give direction. All of those things are beneficial for them for life. And glad that we have the opportunity to do that through gymnastics. We talk about it with them, that's for sure.
I think, like you said, like setting those rules and stuff when your staff comes in, like your new coaches, saying that this is how we handle conflict here is a good way to go about trying to, I guess, I'm trying to think of the right word, but trying to get rid of some of that extra conflict drama, that going to other people for validation versus talking to the person who actually needs to get it done. Because I think we kind of set it as something that's normalized, like dysfunction is normalized. So if we're seeing everybody around us going to complain to other people instead of solving a problem, then we're more likely to do that too. We follow what our leaders do. So if our gym owners or our head coaches are the ones who are going around and they're complaining about other coaches and they're not going to the source, or they're complaining about their athletes, and instead of trying to figure out an appropriate solution, then I think that we just create this as part of the culture. It's just something that's normal versus something that we could have fixed maybe from the get-go. I don't
Yeah,
know. What do y'all think?
I think that one of the things that I'm definitely guilty of is, having a conversation with another coach, which involves complaining about a third coach. And so when you walk away from that conversation with the coach you're speaking with, I feel you leave in their mind is, gee, I wonder what he says about me when I'm not around. Right. So I think that we discuss that with like directors, right? Because you have other directors of other situations in your gym. You have a rec director, you have a program manager, you have the general manager. Those people should be able to speak about other employees as long as it's not derogatory, because even your other directors may say, well, geez, I mean, he's complaining about that person's a manager too. So sometimes we get into those conversations and we as humans, especially me, I'm definitely guilty of it, of not realizing that you're saying something that's probably going to make somebody feel as if they're beneath you. So, and yes, somebody has to be in charge. I always tell them that, like, you're on a cruise ship and there's 5,000 people on it, but there's only one captain and he steers the ship. And unfortunately, I'm that person and I don't like to have to pull rank on anybody. And I think they know that here. And I think that's helpful of why we don't have so much conflict. Everybody gets some level of responsibility and you can always move up the line. And we like to talk about that in the gym, but that's not fail proof either. We don't have the greatest organization gym in the world, but some of these things that we've implemented really have taken conflict out of the gym. It's never going to be entirely, but it's really pretty good.
Yeah, you're right. It's never going to go away. But I think, especially if you are going, like you said, to the director or upper level management or something to discuss things as an equal, like going in with the mentality of having a solution focus, not like I'm coming here to complain. I'm coming here to figure out what I can do to maybe discuss this conflict with this person. I don't know exactly how to approach them. What do you think would be the best way to approach them? If you're going in with what can we do about this versus I just need to vent so I can feel better, is probably a better way to go about it too.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add into that way back when I first started working in part of this organization. It was a sleepaway camp that the owner had, and that's where we met. It was 40 years ago, I guess. Hate to show my age, but it's the truth. And we never have any kind of meetings whatsoever that are involving work-related issues without somebody else present. And sometimes I'll just grab one of the employees, hey, can you step into this meeting with me? And like, well, I don't have any idea what the meeting's about. Better yet, just as an innocent bystander. So especially when it comes to working with children, male or female, but just younger people that you're with, you can realize that you're intimidating. I don't realize that I'm intimidating, but here I am, 240 pounds standing on top of, looking down on some, 35-pound-year-old 6-year-old or 7-year-old little boy or girl, I'm intimidating. I don't see it that way. Once they get to talk to me, they don't see me as intimidating, but like from the looks of me, right, I'm intimidating. And you don't want that to be that way for any of your staff. So, like you said, going in as an equal, like, hey, listen, we want to know what you have to say and we want to try to fix this instead of reprimanding. But I think society has brought us to the no reprimand rule, right? There's no consequences anymore for doing anything wrong around here. And in fact, every time somebody does do something that's blatantly wrong, we find a way to defend them and make them feel like it's not their fault. So that's become a little bit of an issue here in the gym. I think for not just the gym, it's for the world. I think everybody's trying to figure out, it's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. Nobody wants to take ownership for their mistakes. So I
A
like,
little personal responsibility is a
yeah,
good thing.
It
and I like
is,
that. I
yeah.
like that we talk about it here in the gym, and we explain that to the people that work here with us, for us, and that it's a togetherness thing. So I think that definitely helps to keep the conflict down.
Yeah, and when you're talking about the staff that's under you as well, how often do you meet with them in a non-coaching scenario, right? Do you
Mhm.
just meet for meetings like, "Hey, how's everything going? Are you having any problems with the lesson planning that I gave you? Are you, and just how's life and those sorts of things, right? Getting to know your staff is a really good thing. But I like, we've been talking a lot from like, director position down to staff. But I like what Rebecca said, where, it's the same thing that I tell my athletes, where it's, hey, if I tell you to move on to something and you're not ready to move on, well, then come with me with a plan on how you get to do what I asked you to do, right? And so, same thing from the lower level staff, the junior staff, up to the directors or coordinators or whatever. It's, hey, I have a problem doing this thing, and here's my plan on how to get it done. Or like, I can't spot what you want me to do, but if I was able to observe and jump in on a couple of your classes and learn how to spot it, I would feel much more comfortable with this lesson plan that you
Yeah,
gave me.
that's a big one with spotting. Sometimes I'll take someone under my wing, like as it was done for me, right? So I'll bring them, hey, why don't you come to bars with me? Level 3, 4 bars, and let me teach you how to spot some kips and some drop kips, and here's proper hand technique. We do a little spotting clinics for our staff as well, but I just started recently pulling in those coaches that show more premise, that want to do and can do a better job spotting. And unfortunately, us as coaches who've been in this for a long time, you either can spot or you can't spot. And the ones who can't spot, who think they can spot, are where the injuries happen. And you would think that's more often than not, but it's the opposite. I think that most of the staff or any of the coaches in the world that can't spot something don't want to spot it. And I want them to feel a little bit more comfortable. No, you can spot this. Come here, let me show you how to spot a bail, or something that's above experience level for classes. But we've been doing that. Like this morning, we just had a teacher who's been with us for 3 years, and we brought her in this morning to do preschool with our preschool director so she can mimic some of the things she does in preschool in her classes. Yesterday, we brought in a junior staff, 16-year-old girl, to work with the level 3s, and so that she can implement some of those skills in the class program and feel more confident. So yeah, that's important. We've really been doing that to help out with the staff. That, I think, that too will help with less conflict in the gym, because then they can feel more comfortable doing something, or adding to the soup, so to speak, if that's the greatest word for it. But all ingredients make a good soup. So,
Yeah, no, these things are really good. There's just depending on the size of the gym that you're in. Obviously, if it's smaller, you have less employees. It's easier to keep up that communication and work on a lot of those things. Um, those clubs out there that have larger gyms or even multiple locations, it's just the things we're talking about they become magnified. And so instead of, the one times, now it's times 10 or it's times 20. And so staying on top of those things becomes really important, and having some type of rules set in place of how to handle confrontation, how to handle some of those things actually written in your rules and policies, especially for team, is really important.
Mhm. So another thing that I find where conflict can arise, and you guys can let me know, but is where coaches are kind of resistant to growth and change. like seeing other ways to do things. And that's at any age. I think this can happen with coaches, even young coaches who've just competed at the collegiate level and they come out thinking, I'm really good at these skills. I know how to coach them. And obviously, being a gymnast and coaching a gymnast can be very different. So I think one area of conflict is that resistance to adapt what you're already doing, to continue to educate yourself. So what do you guys think about that? And why do you think that maybe some of these people are resistant to this stuff?
Yep. You know, I don't know. Any of the like camps, clinics, things that I've been to, even at my very senior age of coaching and my level of coaching, I will walk away and say, I learned something today. I
Yeah,
picked
that's
something up,
good.
even if it was just one thing. So it's hard to believe that a newer coach wouldn't at least find something that they could put in their toolbox and use for their coaching career.
Yeah, it's so strange to me when it happens. And, I kind of get older coaches that are, kind of set in their ways and it's worked for me this long. Why won't it continue to work? And you're like, well, has it actually worked? Or do you just kind of got lucky every once in a while and you remember those success stories? Right? And so that one kind of makes sense, right? At least I can see the perspective. But yeah, when I run into a younger coach that's just super set in their ways already, I'm like, are you sure you want to coach? I don't think this is going to go well for you. Most successful coaches that I know are highly adaptable. Right. And there's a few that just because of the numbers they run through their gym or whatever it is, they find success no matter what they do. But I would say most consistently successful coaches, whether that's elite or whether that's sending kids to college or whether that's, man, they win level 4 state meet every year, whatever it is, most coaches are highly adaptable. And as soon as they learn something that makes sense to them, then they're ready to go. And I think that's the key if we're training people is make it make sense. Just like for our athletes, right? If you just tell an athlete to do something over and over and over again, some of them are going to do it, but you're definitely going to have a percentage of them where they need to know why they're doing it. And I've run across that because I've got lots of very inquisitive kids. And so there's lots of times where they're like, why are you having us do that? And sometimes it's just for my entertainment, but most of the time there's a reason, there's a purpose behind what we're doing, right? And so I want to make sure of that. And so yeah, I do the same thing when I'm training coaches. When I train coaches, I go, all right, if I tell you anything to do, and this one I talk to gymnasts too, but if I tell you anything to do, you have at least every right to ask at least one question with 3 letters that's why. Right. And I have a reason for everything that I do. I want you to have a reason for everything you do. And it can't just be, well, we've always done it this way and it seems to work. Right. Now, that might be true. It might work, but we need to know why.
No, and
Yeah.
I love that you said the word why because a lot of people actually feel really defensive when people say why. So when a kid comes up and they're like, well, why are we doing this? People can make the assumption that they're questioning their competence or their capabilities. A lot of times, kids just use that basic why because they truly just want to know why. They're just wanting some answers. So, yes, so they can understand what needs to be done and why.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, right? And
Yes.
sometimes not. But uh,
Sometimes
a-
not.
and I do
Yes.
agree. I think that the coaches that I'm around now and have been around as long as I have, not quite as long as Mike because I'm not that old yet, but someday I hope to be. Well, no, that's just truth. I
Throwing
hope.
it out there.
No, I mean, I hope to be when I'm his age that I have even more wisdom than I have now. And I take that. I'll ask Mike, what, we're at a meet or something, or we're at camp or we're at nationals. I'll say, hey, take a look at something. And what do you think about this? And just get another opinion. And I think that came with some age and some seasoning. So I definitely, every single camp I've ever gone to, I come away with something. And that something may be, wow, I'm never going to do that. That's also educational.
Hmm.
But I would say that for as many times as that, times 20 or 30, I've come away with something that, wow, I never looked at it like that. Wow, I could do that. Like, what was that just the other day? We were talking about the hurdle line from their foot, and we've been putting their hand lines down for as long as I can remember. And Mike just brought that up, and I'm thinking, well, I'm looking at this kid, and she's like, every time she's next to the edge of the pit, she's next to the edge of the pit. And what do you take a step back? Take a step back. Well, maybe just change where they take off from instead of where they put their hands from. Because I can have them take a step back, but if they keep putting their hands in the same place, they're always going to be close to the edge of the pit, right? So I was like, ding, ding, ding. What a great thing that he shared with us. And I'm going to take that and go use it. But then going back towards the why, we were talking off camera before we started our podcast about kids want to ask why. And sometimes I'll tell them why. And they do have the right to know for some reasons. But other reasons, sometimes it's just because I said so. It's not their defense mechanisms kicking in. They want to know why, because they are questioning your competency, or someone else told them to do it a different way. We bring so many different people into our gym. We've brought Mike's son and daughter-in-law to our gym, and they do a good job with whatever they teach our children, and they might say it a different way. And I don't care who said it to you, or who helped you get it. The base we're all looking for as a gymnastics coaches, from the eye of the skill, we all want to see it the same way. How we achieve it, who cares? If it worked from Mike's way, or Dr. Ian's way, or Rebecca's, it's my way, it's her way. It's, Mickey Mouse came in and taught it to us. It's fine. It's as long as you can get there. And the ego is what I really think is the issue, is that coaches don't want to feel like someone is better than me in my program. I'm the program director here. I'm the general manager here. And I'll be darned if I'm going to let someone come in here and tell my kid how to do a round off, because then they won't think that I know what I'm doing. I would say that happens more often than not. And I think the ego is what gets in the way. I've been to a couple meets this year. Coach Rob, I see you have some really good vaults. Would you take a look at my kid's vault and see if you could give me some pointers on it? Those are the greatest compliments in the world. But when your ego gets in the way and you walk over and you downplay somebody, or you shouldn't do it that way. That's not the way you teach that. Who taught you how to teach that way? Those old school coaches, I don't really have room for them. I don't have room for them in my life. And I don't think that any of us have room for them anymore in our lives, but they do still exist. They're still out there a little bit. But I think the changeover is going in the right direction. And I'll finish with this. The only problem that I have with why anymore is because of Instagram and these kids watching other people show all their drills. Coach Joe Schmo is doing Yurchenko's today, and Coach Cindy Lou Who is doing beam series today, and it's 500 drills, and they're like, oh, that's a great drill, we should do it this way. And then the parents think they can coach it, and the kid thinks they can coach it, and then it's like, well, there's where the why comes from. Well, why do we do it this way? Joe Schmo does it this way.
Yeah,
Fortunately, I haven't run into that too much. That's been nice, but I imagine it's coming at some point in time. As long as we're not doing there's this like random guy that pops up on my Instagram every once in a while. He's like Eastern European, I think, and he's always just like throwing these little tiny girls through this stuff, and like spotting every little aspect of it. They're just stay tight, and he's just doing everything for them. Right. Oh, yeah. And he's usually shirtless when he's spotting them. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
Yeah,
Can we not do this?
Do you guys ever have the situation where, you'll, and it happens both ways. It happens more for me because I'm the guest coach coming in sometimes. But, a coach will be working on a skill with an athlete for, weeks and months and working the drills, working everything. And then that day they happen to be sick, and another coach steps in, and the kid learns the skill that day.
Yeah.
And the coach goes, hey, I taught him the skill today, not knowing that all the work was done months before that. That type of stuff happens and drives me crazy too. And everybody wants to take credit.
Yeah.
We're really, really, the only thing that is a concern, as Rob said, is they learned the skill. They got the skill. It doesn't really matter who taught it to them, who said what. The point is they got the skill. That's the most important thing, not who taught them the skill.
Yeah, and it does take a little bit for you or us or I, especially, to be a step back and be like, oh yeah, right. You're exactly right. Joe Schmo did teach that to you. Good for you.
That's right.
Forget the last 7 years I've been coaching you and building you to get to this thing, and you caught it today. And Joe Schmo, congratulations, you got another one. So, but it's
no animosity there at all.
No,
Not at all.
You got a little bit, right? And so, and sometimes what I like to say to them, especially our team camps, and again, Alex and Holly were here, and we bring in some amazing people, Olympians, heartthrobs in college gymnastics, and we've had some of these amazing people come teach. At the end of the day, we like to be able to say the reason why our program is so successful is because we give them the opportunity to bring in all these other people. It's not just one person, me or whoever may be here that's working for us. It's the culmination of all the people that we bring in that make this happen. And if I could continue to share that with others, and maybe some of those old school people, and I hate to use that word, old school, but those people will walk in and be like, oh, you can't do it that way. That'll never work. Okay, whatever you think. Sure, thanks.
Yeah, it's important to focus on that team dynamic. I like that you brought up the old school coaching, because I think some of that mentality is why a lot of our younger coaches are fearful about asking questions, how to do things or why to do things, because of that feedback when they come over and they're like, oh, who taught you this? Or you don't know what you're doing. And I remember being one of those coaches. I was nervous about asking how to do things or if there's better ways to do it, because then I was scared it would make me look incompetent, because I kind of felt that way. That's the vibe I got when I would ask questions. So it made it really hard for me to do that. I think that's a big thing to remember when we're coming into this, that showing our team that we work together. We want you to ask questions. We want to figure out the best ways to be able to train these skills for our athletes. In the end, it's about them and it's about us being better leaders.
That
Yeah.
must have been when you were coaching with me. That had to have been
It
what
was
was going
you.
on.
You're the one who did it to me.
I'm the problem.
it's
Yeah, I mean,
it's Ian.
I was kind of the opposite. I always wanted to know, and I asked probably too many questions. I think that the younger coaches of today don't realize what we did to get where we are. I mean, I used to go to work at a gym on days that I didn't work just so I could sit in on the level 10 practice. And then it was like, oh, hey, they're all doing double tucks today, and there was 10 kids. Like, you spot. I'm like, oh, okay. And then it was like, hey, why don't you take them to vault today? And then it was, hey, why don't you spot bars today? After you've learned and they taught you and you hung around enough and you're hungry, you start to get the coaches that were my mentors were asking me to step in and do some things. And I think that the younger staff of today doesn't know what we've put into it because it's instant gratification. I keep going back to that social media, but there is no instant gratification. I get like a 6-year-old in here and I'm thinking double just from watching this kid do rounded back handspring back tuck. But that doesn't mean that by the time she's 8 years old, she's doing a double. It's going to be another 6 years of my life that I'm going to invest in doing this and getting this to be where it's supposed to be and setting up all of the progressions to get to where we want to get to. And I think that may be the biggest problem with the younger staff of today and the younger coaches of today is they want this instant gratification. They see some other kid who's got a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old doing standing fulls on beam, and then they want to teach the kid a standing full. I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? That's one of those ones where I pull up and go, no, don't do that. No, that's definitely not where we're going to be right now. Let's back up and let's do these things first, and I'll help you get to this standing full if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, I think the closest thing to instant gratification in my coaching life was I was coaching at Flip Fest summer camp through college so I could train and make money at the same time. And so I started off coaching boys, and then John Roethlisberger was like, "Hey, we don't need boys coaches right now. We need girls coaches." And I was like, "I don't know how to do that." He's like, "Don't worry, we'll train you." And so, I learned how to coach up to like level 10 gymnastics in one summer, but it was like 26 hours a week or more, plus
Yeah.
clinics and
Yeah.
weekend stuff. And instant gratification, but I was being trained full-time job for like 10 weeks.
Intense instant gratification.
Yeah, and I think,
Yes, exactly.
like Mike said, you get these people that have been doing these things for quite some time, and then you come in and you have two little magic words and the kid catches one. They weren't my magic words, but I think the biggest thing that we could all relate to as coaches, young and old, is a kip. There's no kip whisperer out there. There's no kip drill. Well, actually, I won't say it. There's got to be another kip drill out there that I've never done before because there's gazillions of them, right?
That's
And
right.
every time I go somewhere, I see somebody doing one. I'm like, well, that one's a good one. Let me go try that. And it doesn't work. None of them work. What works is spotting kips and 100 million of them. And it's the timing and then the kid. And it's like anybody can learn a kip if you put the effort into it. And it's like, well, you think my kid will have my kip by season? I have no idea. I hope so. Let me just add water or I do. There you go. You have your kip, right? Or like when we get to a clinic or something, I tell them that they have magic buttons on top of their hands. So I push each one of the magic buttons and then they have to get those magic buttons on top of the bar. They're, well, the kid got one. Oh, he's got magic touch. No, I don't have any magic buttons. No magic fairy dust, no secret ingredient. It's hard work, spot until your shoulders fall off.
All right, so I was going to ask if you guys could say one thing that maybe helps you stay open to feedback, maybe give something to the people who are listening on how you can still be receptive to growth and change in your gym.
One thing for us is, obviously I didn't come up with this, our owners did, but in order to get a raise at our gym, you have to show more value for the gym. So they don't just do like yearly raises or something. So you have to attend so many staff meetings, you have to do so many observation hours, you have to give a presentation about something that you've researched or learned, and then you can get raises from there. And I think that's a great way to kind of stimulate, well, the ones that do want to pursue gymnastics as a career, well, they're going to start doing that stuff anyway. And to encourage it by like, hey, I can also make more money if I already do the thing that I really kind of want to do, then great. And then the ones that don't really want to pursue it, but they just want more
They
money.
just want more money.
then that's fine too, because they become a better coach and everyone's happy, right? So I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I think the best thing that I would add to that would just make it mandatory for them to go to at least one clinic a year. Or host your own clinic in a year and have them come in. We do our team summer camp, and I try to get all of the kids that coach for us and teach for us to come, and we don't pay them to come to our team camp because there's a lot going on, but maybe this year that's something that I might add in, like, hey, attend team camp for one day and get a $25 gift card to Five Below or something out of it.
Yeah,
Bonuses.
I think there's the question was kind of twofold. One was yourself personally, and then the answer there is to keep an open mind. No matter what you think, there's always something that you can learn in this sport, which is why I enjoy the sport so much. There's endless amounts of learning that you can continue to do. And Rob, when you have time, I will show you that kip drill that will help your athletes get better kips. Okay.
Thank you, because I need that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. And
I mean, men's gymnastics, we got kips on 3 events. So if anyone's the master at kips, it should be us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and the other part is, as Rob touched on, is just education. We have a year training program, and it recycles every year. And depending on how long you've been with the gym or the company, if it's 5 years or under, you have to attend every one of these, and it's every other month. We have these trainings. I think that is important for the education of the staff, and also it helps you because whenever you, or as Ian said, whenever any of your coaches has to get up in front and teach something, they actually learn something too. So it's really beneficial. So just having a plan in place for your gym as far as education and training is really important.
Yeah. And I guess the last thing that I would add to that is just try not to make assumptions. When you see other coaches doing things, or maybe if you hear something, go to that source and talk to them directly and figure out, why did you choose to change the plan for today? Or did something go on with your kids, instead of coming in there with anger or criticism, just to kind of address what you have issues with in a calmer, kinder way. So overall, we're not saying that conflict is bad. Conflict can help us, push us to grow and change. It's just how we go about that conflict is how it matters. And we've discussed that a lot today. So thank you for joining us. If you haven't listened to any of our other episodes, please go back and check them out. And if this episode got you thinking about your own gym culture, we want to hear all of that. Please reach out and let us know. If you enjoyed the episode, remember to like it, subscribe, review, to share it with people. And thank you for joining us here at the NJA Podcast. Until next time, stay happy, healthy, and high performing.